Okay, hi everyone. So this is in continuation to the learning patterns, particularly for any kind of input data. And what is important here is when you are taking into account input data, perhaps one is the segregation part where most of the folks who really understand coding, you have to bifurcate into tabular format and have your horizontal and vertical item numbers in a manner whereby the data can be segregated. So that was the old school way of learning the parameters. So I will walk you through something which we have been working on for last, couple of years. I'm not getting into the particular year, but the point of understanding here has to be how the classification itself can be used for tagging the data, and that itself becomes a real data set to solve the problems at hand. So we have these GPTs 2 and whatnot in the current scheme of things in 2025 and beyond. And honestly speaking, just a little bit of tweaking can relate to a new model altogether. uh, if we have to talk about and learn about the tagging part, one of the most important, I would say, classification is the learning methods itself, which is tagged under the generative stuff. And here it is G0 N3 slash 08. You have to look into the CPC also, because then CPC becomes much more in detail, and that is what I love about the EPO stuff. Then we have the US classification also, perhaps because of the current way of whatever is happening right now. I'm not looking into the US classification, I'm just focusing on the IPCs and the CPCs. That being said, so one is the learning methods, then we have the artificial life. For the candidates for the virtual world to grow in terms of the augmented reality and the virtual reality, we have something called as artificial life, which is an arrangement of modules to um, simulate, I would rather say, possibilities of creating a particular embodiment, because I personally love the word embodiment. I don't utilize the other words because just coming to the understanding of embodiment from the beginning of almost whatever experience I have in intellectual property rights, I've understood embodiments per se gives a most largest possibility in terms of orchestrating whatever one wants to orchestrate in the augmented reality. So this particular thing is artificial life, which is computing modules simulating life based on simulation of virtual individuals. I call them as virtual candidates, or collective life forms. Example, social simulation, or we have PSO. PSO stands for particle swarm optimization. So how you optimize the data parameters as far as a candidate can give you one word and then you have the next word depending on, it's kind of stitching of sentences, perhaps, to understand the mindset of the candidate. um, what is a good thought process around this is to create, uh, in terms of art, music, and the others, it can be a part of a bigger vision project. So this is under G06N3 slash 006. Then we have recurrent networks like Hopfield networks, which is under 6 G06N 3 slash 044. So that is Hopfield networks. One can look into the data set of understanding what Hopfield network is all about. Then we have the one I definitely like is LSTM, and we have GRU. LSTM stands for long short term memory, and the other one is GRU, that is gated recurrent units. Recurrent networks like Hopfield networks, which is okay. EPO loves the characterization of the word characterized by, I mean, in so many office actions over the years, just because it is their way of understanding the data set, they will make you change during the examination process. Um, just give me a moment. So I personally don't like the word or the phrase characterized by. So this is talking about memory of gating. So we have this Hopfield networks, which is G06N3/0442. Combination of networks, that is G06N3/045. And the one I have been working on for the longest time. So these are the two networks I wouldn't say it's the core, because Impala network is nothing to do with the IPCs or the CPCs. It's a very new network which was developed due to the pain points existing in the society. Okay, so we have generative networks, which is G06N3/0475, and we have the CNN and the convoluted networks, that is G06N3/0464. Supervised learning, non-supervised learning, reinforcement learning. This comes under the category of G06N3/09 and G06N3/092. Okay, that being said, so when we are talking about software as a service, blockchain as a service, whatever platform as a service, so these are the buzzwords which are being utilized right now by different entities globally to facilitate the problem statement which exists in the online world, and because of that it is affecting the offline world also. The need of the hour is to improve the efficiencies in the software development, which becomes very important to fulfill the demands of the candidates, I would say. So let's see how this works. If I go through the flowcharts, flow diagrams. Okay. For the software processing, we have very simple word. If we talk about, anyway, I like to use the word module, and there is certain way of, or the method is to have the software and the hardware component together when you are actually submitting a patent and you really want that patent to be granted, because you can work without a patent also as a trade secret. Having said that, I'll walk you through section 3K of the Indian Patent Act also, because that is something which has been discussed over the years and still we don't have a solution. And in many ways, I think one should not have a solution for section 3K perhaps. Okay, for the software modules to work, you need to have a test modulator, then you need to validate your results. For that you have a result modulator, then you have again for the neural network to work, there can be different ways to do that. In this particular case, there's a deep neural network model, and generated test series are taken into consideration. Input operational blah blah blah, not important. Okay, what is important is the rules. What rules are you utilizing to train the model? And particularly, the data set has to be small enough. If the input data set is small enough, that will take care of the output, and that output can be utilized as a use case study for that particular domain to work at a larger scale. So in this particular case, we have earlier, most of the patent applications have been filed using GPT-2. Rules and patterns are based on standard elements and interaction, which includes HTML, CSS, JavaScript elements and their functionality, adaptive grammar based on path from searched base app. Oh my gosh. I mean, grammar has to be the major module right now. Folks don't know how to use or even spell a normal spelling. Somehow I got hold of few of the documents written by best of the people having best of the degrees globally, and I was surprised just the spelling nomenclature of whatever they had written. And let me tell you, even a single letter here and there makes a lot of difference. So that has to be, you need to have a checkpoint. That is the HACCP which we discussed earlier. That is hazard analysis, critical control points, so that the determination can be made, and with that determination itself you are able to understand and prepare a model which is better than the others. At the same point of time, it's a trade secret. There is no fun having a granted patent and be open to the fact that there's infringement and the others. Seeing what has happened in the world right now and in this new world order, I don't think so there is any room for the infringement part to be a major play role. A lot of operators, stakeholders globally still think that this is one way of capitalistic way of living. Honestly speaking, if understanding the Indian data set the way the Indian mindset, because Indian mindset is very global in nature and so many people would be coming back to the country because of so many reasons, this is not going to work, because all the agreements signed stating the NDAs and all, there's going to be a lot of clashes in terms of the vesting clauses. So taking that viewpoint in mind and understanding the nuances of what is happening right now, it is more important to keep the trade secret a secret and still do the defensive publication and launch your product at a large scale where anyone on the planet is your consumer or perhaps a candidate for your application. Okay. They're looking into the live environment. I'm not a very big fan of live environment. Okay, we will go through a little bit on the framework part just to understand. Okay, so the way one embodiment can work is recording the real user's API interaction, that is click and the other parameters, whatever the parameters are, with the timestamp, and then train any sequence model of with GPT-2's birth, transformers, CNN, RNN on those sequences, though it can take up or understand new realistic interaction sequences. Let the model generate as many fresh data sets for the, I would say, the admin to understand, so that one can understand what this script is all about. Then run each script against the application. Keep only the ones that actually execute and produce output as a label which states that, okay, this is valid, this is invalid. So it's again, valid is yes, invalid is no. So there's no third answer for this. Flag any run that looks invalid. There are times where the candidates would be giving wrong data set. That has to be flagged at the very instance, because the same question has to be running again till the time the model is able to determine that, okay, this is how this is behaving. So that is how you are able to flag that particular test run. And if the failure happened because of the intended code change, then obviously the app should be able to have an auto repair and mute the test, otherwise report a real defect. And here you have an opportunity for giving jobs to humans, because human intervention is needed. The only pain point right now, perhaps for the industry is wherever there's interaction of offline and online world, you need to determine where you need uh, a particular human to execute it. And particularly, I believe chatbots is not doing justice. We need people as customer support. Even the best of the people should be deployed for customer support so they really understand the nuances from the viewpoint of market research, particularly the primary market research. So the way it works here is you capture the data. With that data, you train the model, then you generate the output. Validation has to be there. Multiple validation should be run for a number of days, and then it executes and adapts to get to the next version. So that is one way of understanding what we just discussed. And I wanted to discuss the uh, section 3K.
So actually that is we have to raise the ticket and it goes to our backend team hosting, so they have their platform. So we can try to escalate it.
So, honestly speaking, when we are talking about Section 3K of particularly the Indian patent law, which is in process, which is part of the protocol right now, is the way to overcome is it should be a technical solution to a technical problem. So the word technical plays a very, very pivotal role while overcoming Section 3K. And for that, the hard work by the overall process is part of the hardware software combination. And most of the times that data set is not there in the detailed description because patent claims is just, I would rather say, a playground which can be maneuvered if the detailed description is there. In the earlier times, maybe a decade ago, we used to talk about patent claims being the core or the heart of the invention. The answer is big no. It's invalid because it is just the mindset at that point of time when the writing part is being orchestrated or the framework is being drawn to just have an alignment of the thought process in terms of elements and the sub-elements, modules and the sub-modules. That's how it is done. If the detailed description is not good enough, you will never get a patent granted. And there's no point arguing with the examiner stating that, oh, you granted this patent to this company, so grant this to us. It makes whatsoever no difference. What difference it makes in this new world order is how well you are able to keep the trade secret a trade secret and still have a defensive publication and be the first move advantage that will only take you to the next level. There's no point getting into litigation and wasting resources in terms of the intellect, because when you talk about technical problem, technical solution, that technical brain point has to be kept in the right framework so that you're able to generate better data set. Because there's something called as apposita, that is a person's skill in the art should be able to do what is written in the patent application. And given the data set, until unless I'm not getting the farmer part, we are just discussing the software understanding of what is happening right now in terms of the generative stuff and particularly AI. The real challenge right now would be understanding the integrity of what is right, what is wrong, what is valid, what is invalid, getting into the patenting process, having a fast, speedy patent trolls and everything. honestly speaking, that's not going to work in India. As far as I know, the mindset of the most of the people, the enterprises and the stakeholders in India, they're not ready for this. What is important in India is the geographical indication, how that geographical indication is utilized, because we need to save what this country owns, not what is being created with the data which is already there in the public domain. It is just the bifurcation of the data in a manner, whether we talk about models and the others, into modules and take it into the augmented reality or the virtual reality or combination of so many things. Because in a very simple format, if you go to the PubMed database and you look into the research of the global scientist, it is very, very clear that when um, through the iris, so iris is the eyeball iris, I'm talking about the medical term here, through the iris, because the light enters, if somebody has studied physics properly, you will be able to appreciate the bigger the screen size. It's not that the screen size has to be very huge. The bigger the screen size, uh, the neurons expand because of acetylcholine and all that spiking and stuff. But when you are utilizing uh, handheld devices for your most of the work and all, it doesn't work. It shrinks. So everything in this world is like the percentage of water is more. If we talk about the human body also, or this perhaps if we want to call it a human body at the first place, it is 60 to 70% water, and that states for the planet also. So it is very easy to understand with very simple experiments that what is important is to work on a big screen, because when you work on a big screen, you are able to see the better aspect of understanding the data sets. Handheld devices, it crunches the gray matter or whatever matter you want to call it, and that is not advisable as far as the research is concerned from different parties. Thank you for watching this out. Have a great day ahead.